We think that this slide essentially is able to describe in one slide the strategic program of the City of Johannesburg, the growth and development strategy of the City of Johannesburg, and how the document itself is structured. Because the document itself looks at an overarching framework or 6 key principles that drive our development agenda. Those principles being the eradication of poverty. So as part of the strategic intent of the city is the eradication of poverty. It's a deliberate choice of words, so we're not talking about an intention to alleviate poverty into the long term. It's about the eradication of poverty. Therefore, our efforts need to work towards that strategic intent. The second is about building and growing an inclusive economy. And as you would see, the words themselves are also very deliberate. It's about economic growth, but it's also about inclusivity. It's about creating equitable access to economic opportunities. It's about redress, and it's about building a truly non-racial economic environment and therefore socio-economic environment in our city. The next is about social inclusion through support and engagement, enablement. And that's the social development element of what we're trying to achieve, to ensure that we're able to facilitate social inclusion, we're able to identify vulnerable individuals and communities that do not have adequate and or equitable access to what the urban amenity provides, whether it's in terms of social, economic, and other amenities, where communities are excluded as a result of location and or, in fact, the way in which they've been able to integrate with the cityscape, so to say. So we think that the agenda of social inclusion is important and should be part of the principles that drive our development agenda. The fourth is about sustainable human settlements. Sustainable human settlements defined in its broadest context, taking into account sustainability, principles of social, economic, and environmental justice and development, but creating a human settlement environment that is, in fact, fundamentally different from what we historically have experienced and in many instances continue to experience in the form of historically black monofunctional townships that do not have adequate interface with the rest of the city, and monofunctional areas in terms of industrial, commercial, office spaces, etc., into a city that functions differently from an urban design and an urban planning point of view, and therefore a spatial configuration of the city that is different from what we currently have, and we'll talk briefly to that. The fifth of the principles is about ensuring resource security and environmental sustainability. And when we talk to the principles later, we'll be able to the priority implementation plans, we'll be able to elaborate on this. But what is our resource future in relation to water, electricity, energy, alternative energy, and so on? What is the future of Johannesburg, and how do we ensure that that is available and secure? How do we ensure that there's security of supply of water? You would recall that at the time that we finalized the growth and development strategy, amongst the projections was that by 2014, we would have reached the equilibrium of water demand and supply. And unless something is done that's significant with increasing populations, increasing demand, that in fact we would begin to experience water shortages in the reef area, so to say, so in the Wits historic area of Gauteng. So it's a significant issue that we needed to relate to. But we had also just a few years before then experienced the advent of load shedding as a result of the challenges of supply of electricity. We're at the point that our landfill sites were projected to run out of airspace in 5 to 7 years. So the reality that we need to make different decisions about our resources is important, but also issues in relation to climate change and environmental justice coming there. And the last of the principles is in relation to good governance. Locating ourselves within the broad Gauteng City Region initiative of ensuring that we accept that we function within a polycentric environment where the cities are interdependent to the extent that Ekurhuleni functions together with Joburg as part of an urban center of Gauteng, in as much as Tshwane would be in the same sort of environment and the districts themselves.